There are no office hours this Wednesday due to conferences. However, if you need help with something, feel free to send me a message. I can schedule you into my day. We could do a Zoom meeting and go over anything you have questions um, on Wednesday this week, so in 2 days. Next week I'll have classes, so you can still send me a message and I can try to answer it and answer your question through email. But because classes will be happening, probably not as likely to get a Zoom meeting together. Homework for the lesson we're going to do today. There is a note check and a homework assignment and an exit ticket. So a couple of things to do for this with this assignment or in this assignment folder. So make sure you get those things done. All right, so if you have your packet, open up to page 9. And we are going to be solving systems of equations by elimination. All right, so the elimination method, or solving systems using elimination, what we want to do in step 1 is write the system so that the terms are lined up. You'll see when we get to our example what I mean by that. It just makes it easier when we have to actually get to step 3. Step 2, we want to get the X or Y coefficient, the number in front, to be exactly the opposite, either X or Y, one or the other, not both. So that when we add them together, we get rid of that variable. You may need to multiply one or both equations by a constant in order to do that. Step 3, we're going to add the equations together and then solve for the variable that's left over. Once we finish step 3 and get a value for one of our variables, we're going to take that value and substitute into one of the original equations and solve for the other value, for the other variable. The answers from steps actually should be 3 and 4. We're going to write that as an ordered pair, X, Y, and then we can check our solutions. So this should be steps 3 and 4, not steps 2 and 3. And again, I think writing this process down is probably more difficult than actually doing the process. So let's take a look at some examples. Solve the system of equations by elimination. We have 2x minus 4y equals 2, and the opposite of x, or negative x, plus 4y equals 3. So our first step said we want to get the variables written with the variables lined up. So this is what I mean. My x's are above my x's, my y's are above my y's. my coefficients are above my coefficients. It then said we wanted to get either the x or the y coefficients to be the opposites. In this case, my y's are already opposites. I don't need to do any multiplying to get opposites. They're already opposites the way they are. So I can go right to step 3 and add. And I'm just going to add up and down. So I take 2x plus a negative x gives me 1x, or just x. The minus 4y plus 4y, that's 0y. It gets eliminated. That's why we call this elimination. 2 plus 3 is 5. So I've got one value for my variable. X is equal to 5. Now I can take that 5 and I can plug it into either equation to figure out what y is. I'm going to choose the second equation. So I have that negative 5 plus 4y equals 3. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Three plus 5 is 8. Divide both sides by 4. Y equals 2. So my solution would be 5, 2. And again, the great thing about solving a system is you can check your answer when you're done and know whether you are correct or not. So this solution actually comes from basically this second equation. So I'm going to check it with that first equation. So my check, 2 times my x value minus 4 times my y value, does that give me an answer of 2? Let's see, 2 times 5 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Is that equal to 2? And 2 equals 2. It does check. So that is my solution. All right. A second example. 3x plus 4y equals negative 8. 3x minus 3y equals 27. In this case, I do not have exactly opposites with either my x's or my y's. So now I'm going to have to multiply one or both equations to get opposites. The nice thing here is my x's are exactly the same. So what I can do is multiply by -1 for one of those two equations. And it really doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm going to choose to multiply the bottom one by -1. So my top equation just stays the same. My bottom equation, when I multiply everything by -1, I get minus 3x. The -1 and the minus sign make a plus 3y. And the -1 times 27 is minus 27. The big thing here is make sure you multiply everything by that -1. Now my x's have opposite signs, and I can add 3x plus -3x, that's 0. It eliminates the x's. 4y plus 3y, 7y. Negative 8 plus negative 27 is negative 35. Divide both sides by 7. I get y equals negative 5. Now I'm going to take that value and plug it in to one of my equations to solve for x. Again, your choice really doesn't matter. I did some work on the second equation, so maybe I'll plug into that one. And I always want to go back to my original. So in this case, minus 3 times minus 5 is plus 15. Subtract 15 from both sides. 3x equals 12. Divide both sides by 3. So my solution would be the ordered pair 4, negative 5. See if I can write that a little bit better. And again, I'm going to double check that by plugging it in to the equation I didn't use to find my x value. So I'm going to plug it into that top equation. 3 times 4 plus 4 times negative 5. Does that give me negative 8? So 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Negative 8 equals negative 8. That checks out. And I have a good solution. Questions so far? Right? 3x plus 22y equals 39. 5x plus 11y equals negative 12. Now, when I look at this one, I don't have coefficients that are exactly the opposite, and I don't have coefficients that are exactly the same. So now I need to try to figure out, can I multiply one equation by something to get exactly the opposite for my coefficients? And if I look, if I multiply the second equation by negative 2, then I would get negative 22y, and my y's would be the opposite. So if I can get opposites by just multiplying one equation, that's the preferred method. Although it's not always possible. So again, I want to make sure I multiply everything in this bottom equation by negative 2. And then I'm going to add 3x plus negative 10x is negative 7x. 22y plus negative 22y. Again, those cancel. The y's are eliminated. 39 plus 24 is 63. Divide by the negative 7. We get x equals negative 9. Again, I'm going to then take that and plug it into one of my original equations. It does not matter which one you choose. I'm going to choose the first one just because the numbers are a little bit smaller. You could also choose the second one. So 3 times negative 9 plus 22y equals 39. So negative 27 plus 22y equals 39. I'm going to add 27 to both sides. Of my equation. So I get 22y equals 66. Divide both sides by 22. Y equals 3. So I think my solution is negative 9, 3. Again, I'm going to check it to make sure. And because I've already used that first equation, I'm going to check it in the original second equation. So I'm going to take 5 times negative 9, which is my x value, plus 11 times 3, which is my y value, and see if that gives me negative 12. Negative 45, whoops. Negative 45 plus 33, is that equal to negative 12? And negative 12 equals negative 12, it checks out. I have a good solution. All right. All right, so negative, the next example, example 2b, negative 5x minus 2y equals 4. 3x plus 6y equals 6. Again, I don't have exactly opposites. I have opposite signs on both my x's and my y's, but I don't have coefficients that are exactly opposites. So what I really would like is to look to see, can I multiply one equation by a value to get my coefficients the opposite? In other words, could I multiply the first equation by something to get either my x's to be opposite or my y's to be opposite? And if I can't see anything, then I can go back and look at my second equation. Could I multiply that by something to get exactly the opposites? In this case, I can multiply by 3 in that first equation. So I get negative 15x minus 6y equals 12, and 3x plus 6y equals 6. And then I'm going to add. Negative 15x plus 3x is negative 12x. Minus 6y plus 6y is 0. 12 plus 6 is 18. Divide by negative 12. And reduce. And I'll be right back. I've got a phone call. Thank you for sticking with me during that interruption. Negative 3/2. If you don't like fractions, this one actually does come out exact, negative 1.5. Now I need to find my y value. So I'm going to choose to plug into that second equation. You could choose the first as well. It doesn't matter which one you use. So 3 times negative 1.5 is negative 4.5 plus 6y equals 6. Add 4.5 to both sides. Divide by 6. And 10.5 divided by 6 is negative 1.75. And if you know, again, you may want to use a calculator on that one. I'm going to just use the little calculator. Oh, there we go. All right. So I'm just going to double check that 10.5 divided by 6 is 1.75. So yeah, 1.75, good. And so my solution, again, you could write it as a decimal or as a fraction. I think sometimes the decimal is, if it comes out exact, is a little bit easier to check with. You could check using a calculator or just multiplying everything out and combining your like terms. So I used the bottom equation to get my y value. So I'm going to use my top equation for my check. Negative 5 times negative 1.5 minus 2 times 1.75. Is that equal to 4? I get a negative times a negative, that's going to be positive. 5 times 1.5 is 7.5 minus 2 times 1.75 is 3.5. And that indeed equals 4. Again, like I said, you could check with a calculator, and I'm just going to walk you through that here. Checking my solutions. So in this case, I had negative 5 times negative 1.5 minus, and I'm going to use parentheses, 2 times 1.75, and my parentheses. And that equals 4. And in my original equation, I should have it equal to 4. So that worked out just fine. All right. So what I would like you to do is try the try now, problems 1 and 2. And then again, put your answers in the chat. So like, for instance, if the first one you got 0, 0 as an answer, it's not 0, 0, but if that was your answer, just in the chat, type in 0, 0. And then for number 2, again, same thing. Type whatever your answer is into the chat. I will give you a minute or 2 or 3 to go ahead and work on those. And if you have questions, feel free to go to the chat and ask. And then we can do a little, maybe go into a breakout room and get your question answered. All right, so I'm just gonna give you 3 minutes. See where you get. And I'm gonna mute myself now and let you work in peace. All right. So for problem 1 here, I got a solution of 2 -1. Is there anyone that would like to see that one worked out? All right, so working that one out, the x's are already opposites, so I don't need to multiply. I can just add my 2 equations. The 2 and -2, that's 0. 3 plus 3y plus 2y is 5y. 1 plus -6 is -5. Okay. Then divide both of these by 5. So y would give us -1. Take that equation, plug it into one of my 2 originals. I'm going to choose the second one. So -2 times -1 plus 2y equals -6. Ooh. This is +2 plus 2y equals -6. Oh, let me try that again. I made a slight mistake. I want to plug -1 in for y, not for x. So it should be 2x plus 3 times -1 equals 1. You could put it in the other equation as well. I made a mistake. 2x minus 3 equals 1. Add 3 to both sides. 2x equals 4. Divide by 2. We get x equals 2. So my solution, try this again. Mr. Gingrich should just slow down to -1. And then I'll plug it into that second equation to check. -2 times 2 plus 2 times -1. Is that equal to -6? -4 minus 2 or plus -2. Does that equal -6? And it does. So that checks. All right. For those of you that wanted to see that one, did that help? Second system, the solution would be -3, -5. Do we need to see that one? Right? Moving on. For For the next example, example 3, again, we have a system 6x plus 4y equals 2 and 12x plus 8y equals 4. And I can get my x's to be exactly the opposite if I multiply my top equation by -2. Multiplying through by -2, I get -12x minus 4y equals -4. And my other equation stays the same. Oh, I'm having a rough day today. -2 times 4y should be minus 8y. Adding these together, -12x plus 12x, that's 0. -8y plus 8y, that's 0. And -4 plus 4 is 0. So if I get a number is equal to itself, remember this is the one that has infinitely many solutions. In other words, they are the same equation, just one is a little bit written a little bit different than the other. If we graphed, we would get one line lying on top of the other for this system. All right. Next example, -2x plus 3y equals 3. 6x minus 9y equals 7. Again, to get opposite coefficients, it looks like I can make the x's opposite by multiplying the top equation by 3. And if I multiply that correctly, -6x plus 9y equals 9. And I honestly, I kind of feel I need to check today the way that my multiplication has been working. The bottom equation, we keep the same. And we add. -6x plus 6x, 0. 9y plus -9y, 0. 9 plus 7 is 16. 0 does not equal 16. So this is one that has no solution. In other words, the two original equations, if we graph them, would be parallel lines. One of the nice things with solving by elimination if you get no solutions or infinitely many solutions, you're always going to get 0 equals a number. So that's the only time that you'll have either no solution or infinitely many solutions. All right, last types that you could have. So we've had coefficients that are exactly opposite. We've had coefficients that are the same, so we just multiply one equation by -1. We've had coefficients where we multiplied one equation by a value to get opposites. Now we're going to look at what happens if you need to multiply both. So In this case, negative 6x plus 7y equals 11. 8x minus 3y equals 17. So one thing that you could do is look at, do I have coefficients that are already opposite sign, not opposite number? In this case, I do. Both my x's and my y's have opposite signs. One is positive, one is negative. So then I would look at possibly the smallest coefficients. So, and they're pretty close. I kind of like the 3 and the 7, the negative 3 and the 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my top equation by 3 and my bottom equation by 7. Because they're opposite signs, when I do that, my y's will be exactly the opposite, and then I'll be able to add to get my solution. You could do the same thing with the 8 and the negative 6. You could multiply the top equation by 8, the bottom equation by 6, a little bit bigger numbers, but you should get the same answers. So this gives me negative 18x plus 21y equals 33. And 8 times 7 is 56x minus 21y equals 119. So you'll notice right away, if I have to multiply both, my numbers get to be pretty big. Add together. Negative 18x plus 56x. That's going to be 48x. 21y plus negative 20y, they cancel. And this gives me 152. 33 plus 119 is 152. Divide by 48. (152) divided by 48 is 3. Again, if you need to, go ahead and use a calculator to verify that, or as you're working in your homework, you will have a calculator available to do those calculations. I'm going to try to find my y value now. I'm going to plug into my top equation. Again, you could plug into the bottom just as well. Negative 6 times 3 plus 7y equals 11. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Add 18 to both sides. Y equals 29 over 7. All right, so something looks a little off, but but that's why we can check our solution. So I'm going to plug into my bottom equation. 8 times 3 minus 3 times 29 over 7 So that equals 17. So 24 minus 87 over 7. That does not equal 17. So Mr. Gingrich made a mistake. And I found it. So that's a good reason to check. How many of you found my mistake already and just let me ramble on? Shame on you. So I'm going to erase my check. My mistake actually happened right here. Should be 38. And x would equal 4. Add 24 to both sides. Divide by 7. Now I could say, oh, I just made that mistake on purpose to make sure you guys were paying attention. That would be a lie. But it does show that, going through and checking your work is always a good idea. Fractions are perfectly acceptable answers. But again, checking your work to make sure that they are correct answers is a good idea. All right. So the next example, 4x minus 7y equals negative 24. 5x minus 10y equals negative 30. Here I don't have opposite signs for either coefficient. So I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to choose the top one to multiply by negative 5. And the bottom one I'm going to multiply by 4. So that my x's will become opposite numbers, and then I can add. So if I multiply everything in the top equation by negative 5, I would get negative 20x plus 35y equals 120. And the bottom one by 4, I would get 20x minus 10y equals negative 120. Add. Then negative 20x plus 20x eliminates, that's 0. 35y minus 10y is 25y. 120 minus 120 is 0. Divide both sides by 25. Y equals 0. Plug that into one of my original equations to figure out what x is. I'm just going to choose the first equation. 4x minus 7 times 0 equals negative 24. So 4x, because 7 times 0 is 0, equals negative 24. Divide by 4. X equals negative 6. And check my solution. I'm used the first equation already, so plug into my second equation. 5 times negative 6 minus 10 times 0. Does that equal negative 30? Well, 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. 10 times 0 is 0. Negative 30 does equal negative 30. Good solution. All right. So I've got two more try now problems. I am going to split my page so you can see them both. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go ahead and try these, and then I will share solutions. So go ahead and give these your best effort. I will mute myself and let you work. And again, if you have questions, please go to the chat and let me know. If you have a solution, go to the chat and post it there, and I will let you know what I think. For this one, I am going to eliminate the y's. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply my top equation by 4 and my bottom equation by negative 3. Because the y's have the same coefficient, I need to multiply one by a positive value and the other by a negative value. So 16x minus 12y equals negative 52, and 15x plus 12y equals negative 72. Add those. 16x plus 15x is 31x. Minus 12y plus 12y, that's 0. Excuse me. And negative 52 and negative 72 is negative 124. So again, you get some pretty big numbers. Don't be afraid to use a calculator if you need. Perfectly acceptable. Dividing by 31 gives me my x value of negative 4. Taking negative 4 and plugging it into one of my equations to find my y value. I chose to plug it into the first equation. So I took 4 times my x value of -4 minus 3y equals -13. So I got -16 minus 3y equals -13. Add 16 to both sides. -3y equals 3. Divide both sides by -3. Y equals -1. So I'm going to check my answer by plugging those values into my second equation. -5 times -4 minus 4 times -1. Does that equal 24? -5 times -4 is positive 20. -4 times -1 is positive 4. And 24 does equal 24 for a good solution. How about the second example? Would we like to see that one? I just multiplied the top equation. So what I did is I took the top equation and multiplied by 7. And the bottom equation I multiplied by 5 so that I would eliminate the x's. And the numbers get pretty big. -35x plus 105y equals -91. And 35x minus 105y equals 70. Add -35x plus 35x, that's 0. 105y plus -105y, that's 0. So I ended up with 0 on the left-hand side. So now I know I'm either going to get no solution or infinitely many solutions. And when I add -91 and 70, I get -21. 0 is not equal to -21. So I get no solution. Those that you have to multiply both equations by something are by far the most difficult because there's a lot more to do. So just take your time on those, be careful, and you'll be fine. One more thing while I have you all together before I put you in breakout rooms. Ninth graders, the new Chromebooks are in. So if you have either an iPad or an old Chromebook from the school, what they're asking you to do is to bring it in either today or tomorrow and trade in your old for a new Chromebook. If you didn't receive a Chromebook, if you didn't check out a Chromebook and you need one, I believe you can come in and do that as well. But that would be for Group A. They want you to do that. I'm sorry. They want Group A to come in Thursday and Friday. Group B today and tomorrow. So